All right, time for the show. No Mercy 2024. Have mercy on me. I couldn't help it. I thought about that and I'm going like, oh, come on, you know that sounds stupid. Yeah, it's perfect for this. Have mercy on me. You know why? Because this was good. Guys, understand. I'm not against pro wrestling no matter what show it is. I don't care if it's TNA, NXT, TKO, NXT, TKO, SmackDown, or TKO, Raw. I don't care. It could be MLW if I'm reviewing it, which I haven't. It could be AEW, which I still review. I don't care. If it's good, I'm going to tell you. So this was a good show, but it still kind of shows where we are when it comes to this collaboration. I'm telling you right now, before we go any further, is this collaboration a good collaboration? Yes, but it's TKO and Anthem. I'm saying it now. I'm not saying WWE and I'm not saying TNA. This is TKO Group Holdings and Anthem. See which one is getting more of something out of this. Because remember, we're talking about two corporations. We're talking about TKO Group Holdings, which has Endeavor, which has UFC, TKO UFC, TKO WWE. And that's what we got. And then we got Anthem Entertainment. These two companies are working together no matter how much anybody wants to say, oh, they're not working together. It's WWE. It's TNA. No. Someone in both companies had to green light this. So the companies are benefiting more than the promotions, which are not even promotions anymore. They're satellite companies. That's what they are. Until someone tells me otherwise, that's what WWE is, and that's what TNA is. They're satellite companies. They're owned by corporations now. So they really don't have as much autonomy as you believe they do. They only have autonomy as long as the bosses allow it. And this is about the new one who's running TNA, the president there, and Triple H. Triple H is not the one who owns the damn company. He just does what he does. He's a stooge. He's a good-ass stooge who knows how to do his business, but still, he's a stooge. So we got two companies working together. And one company's benefiting way more than the other. Honestly, that's the truth. It doesn't make a difference if someone said, who was it? You know who you were when you talked about TNA getting more people on the app. 8 people a day. I'll say that again for everybody else. And for you, you know who you are, the one who leads me to Sonic. He said TNA's numbers for their app is getting better. They're getting 8 people a day. 8 people a day. Think about what you just said. 8. 8 a day. Some other places get up to 800 a day. You're talking about 8. Now, I'm not taking anything from that, but that's still 8. That's what a YouTube channel could get. Hell, that's what I could get if I'm really lucky, a day, which I've never had. But we're talking about a company that's worth millions of dollars that's just getting 8 people a day. Now, that is still a substantial amount, but it should be more than 100 a day. 150 a day. That would be better for TNA, not 8. Now, let's make it clear. How were they really performing, all the wrestlers? The wrestlers are all performing, well, I want to make this clear to anybody who's watching this. When you watch them and say, oh, they seem to be slow and sluggish. I didn't really like this show. Well, tough titty. Tough titty. You know why? They're in Denver, Colorado. They're 1 mile up. It is very difficult to wrestle in that type of environment. So if they look slower, that's understandable because they're in Denver, Colorado. Give them all slack. Give them a little bit of slack. There's no way they can perform as fast and as good as they normally would if they were in a lower. I don't think anybody's going to give an attitude with this, but just in case, a lower altitude would be better for all of them. But we were in a place that was over, 5,000 feet above sea level? trust me, it's hard to breathe. They're going to get tired quicker, and they did. A lot of the moves that you saw across all of the matches were maybe cut back by 20%. They were 20% slower than they normally would. And, well, some of them were maybe 15 or 10%. Others were maybe close to 20% slower. The women seemed to be a bit slower than they normally would be. And that's understandable. It is hard to breathe. So cut them the slack there. But you can see that even though they were slower, the matches were still good. It was good. First match, Chase U versus... I was going like, what are we going to get here? I thought Chase U was going to win against Axiom and Frazier. Now, I didn't expect Nathan Frazier or Axiom to win here. It didn't make much sense unless someone was about to turn heel. That's what I thought. When it was at the end, and I'm thinking, there's no way they're going to let Chase U, who just won these damn titles such a short time ago, pretty much let them win, unless someone on Chase U was going to turn heel. If it was not going to be Rich Holland, which it was, and I'll talk about him in a minute, it had to either be Duke Hudson or Riley Osborne. I thought either, if as the match was going on, that if they're going to lose, and this is what I thought maybe 5 minutes before the match was over, the way it looks, I don't think Chase U is going to win, even though it looks so close. Would Duke turn? Would Riley, who was just on TNA and Emergence, I can understand maybe Riley may turn because he was just on TNA's roster. Maybe because he was on the roster, maybe he may turn. Not that he'll go and work for TNA in real life, just because he was on Emergence. They didn't even talk about him much, about actually being an Ultimate X when it came to Riley Osborne. But this is what we got. It was a very good match. If you think they didn't do a good match, they did a very hard-hitting match. You could see them tanking already. It was so hard for them to breathe. But in the end, Frazier and Axiom won. And I'm going like, okay. And I even wrote it in my notes. Why? What now? That's what I thought. What now? Why? Because I thought, why would they go there? What now? Is it going to be Duke Hudson, who's always been a question a lot of times, a question, would he ever turn or not? And no. It literally was Ridge Holland who turned flat out on a dime, wiped out the first one that got thrown out of the ring was Duke, and then Riley was right after him, and then Andre goes up to him and says, what are you doing? He touches him on the shoulder, and he gets clotheslined from hell. And you can see Thea Hale, who thought of Ridge like, the way Ridge talked about her, like that's like a daughter to him. And she really looked up to him. She's begging him and pleading not to do it. She even tried to touch him on the shoulder, and he looked like he was ready to rip off her head, and she's terrified. Eventually, Andre Chase got a package pile driver onto the table, and he was done. Sorry about that. I had to change my battery. It was flashing at me. But he literally just turned and did that package pile driver on there, and basically they took Chase away in the ambulance with Thea. I have no idea where they're going to go with him now. After all the building they've done, what are they going to do with Ridge Holland? I would have thought literally Duke would have been the best person to turn, but they went through so much to get Ridge over as a face. We all knew that there was something that might happen with Ridge Holland until they won tag titles. And now they went there. They decided, you know what? We don't need Ridge as a champion. We're not going there. We're just going to have to turn him heel and then do something with him. Now the question is, what? Next. The match I thought would be much further up on the card. I really thought they would actually make this much further up. But due to the fact there was so many titles that were being defended, there was no way they could. And this was the match I was looking forward to. Wesley versus Zachary Wentz. Let's make this clear. Just in case it's the first time you ever see me, hiya. I'm going to tell you this. If you look at my channel, I don't really have a very long playlist anymore. I don't do playlists anymore. I used to. But if you look at my playlist, if you look at my channel over, 2,300 videos, I believe? Yeah, 2,300 videos. Easily more. Probably even up to 2,400. I can't remember what the number is right now. I have done TNA back in 2010. I have reviewed that damn thing longer than many people have been alive. Since 2010 until now, 14 long-ass years, I have been reviewing TNA that went to Impact Wrestling, that joined with Global Force Wrestling, then went back to Impact Wrestling, and now has become TNA again. That's how long I've been doing wrestling. It was like the 7th video I ever produced, I think, that I've done in this channel. I think the 7th or 10th video I ever did was the beginnings of TNA for me. I've been watching it that long. Seeing Zach and the former Desmond Xavier, I've known these two guys for a long time. I watched them, I reviewed them, along with Trey Miguel as the Rascals. I know how their styles are. I've known them for many years. And seeing them both getting this moment, Zach and now Wesley, seeing that makes me so happy for me. These guys work so hard. It's not easy for smaller, high-flying wrestlers to get anywhere. Let's make it clear. There are a huge amount of high-flying wrestlers these days. You may still have the big, bulky, like Hammerstone going like this. And they're big and bulky guys. But we do also have smaller wrestlers, a lot of them. But let's make it clear. A lot of these smaller, high-flying, high-impact, and high-gymnastic wrestlers do not make it all the time. In fact, because there's so many of them, it's rare for them to break out. They have to break out other than their styles. They have to have more. And I knew, before I saw Zachary Wentz, before I saw Trey Miguel, I knew that Desmond Xavier was different. It wasn't just how he jumped around in the ring. There was something different about him. And look how far he's come. And then I saw Zach. And then I saw Trey Miguel. And then, unfortunately, what happened with Zach and his wife, Kimberly, who is bipolar and was very abusive. And after he divorced her, she caused a lot of havoc for him. And heck, havoc for herself because she's gotten in trouble with the law. She's already gone in front of the courts because of her instability. It has not been easy for a Zachary Wentz. And then when it comes to Wesley having to have back surgery, he had to go when he looked like he was getting so hot that he might have been ready to go to the main roster. He had to go away for months to be able to recover from major back surgery. He had no choice. So seeing both these guys back together again, and they're in a special feud just for them, made my heart so happy. I was so glad to see they had this moment. And then if you watch my Emergence review, and you know now Zachary Wentz is the X Division champion, I knew, which would have been really cool, if they had gone there. I knew they weren't going to, but if they had done something special, that if it was possible for them to announce it early, that Wesley would be getting the opportunity to go up against Zachary Wentz for the X Division title at Emergence, that would have been the first time a TNA title would be generally defended on a PLE of TKO WWE. But they didn't go there, and I wasn't surprised. Now, if you look at how they worked the ring, you could tell the first 5 minutes was extremely fast-paced. But then, unfortunately, because of the altitude, it went from here to here. They tried hard to maintain high-octane work. And as two guys who have similar styles that know each other well, and they understood the situation they were in an environment that's over 5,000 feet above sea level. There is no way they couldn't keep up that pace. So at one point, they went from here really fast, and it looked like they began to crank it back to here. So it was not at 100%. I say about 75 to 80% of what they normally did. There was no option. They tried to boost it a couple of times to go back up to 100, but they just couldn't do it. And it showed, but it doesn't mean they did a bad job while they were doing the wrestling match. I loved it. It's because I know them personally, because I did Impact Wrestling and saw them, and I know what type of styles they work. I know how they work together. So for me personally, it didn't bother me they couldn't go as fast as they normally would. Somebody else who's not fond of two high-flying wrestlers who have worked together at the same time, who know each other's attitudes, how to work the ring, they're not going to like this match. I'm telling you right now, this was a TNA X Division style match. And I'm sure not everyone is going to like it. But they're going to like it even worse. Because, look, you're going to be doing X Division. Why are you not going fast enough? And like I said, they can't. It's just not possible. But in the end, once you saw Trey Miguel come out, because once Wes saw that he could not beat Zach, he got so pissed off. He grabbed the chair. He was about to whack him in the head after he'd already mostly incapacitated him. You got Trey grabbing that chair. And that was fine. Great. After that, Zach won. He managed to pin him. And Trey jumped into the ring and hugged him like he's never hugged him before. And in the end, you could see West looked like he wanted to burn a hole right through both of them. And to be honest, after it was all done and they had their segment in the back, I expected someone was about to get jumped. I thought that West was going to jump Trey and was going to jump Zach, but he didn't. So now they made a request. They want to go after the tag champions. So Axiom and, let me give it to you like this. Knowing that Ava made the decision that Zachary, how can I say this? I don't believe the Rascals are going to win. Let's make this clear. I do not expect them to win the NXT championships. I don't expect them to win the tag champs. But they are in a triple threat. So it's going to be Rascals versus Hank and Tank. And who is the last team? I cannot remember the last team that was going to be doing it. Who was it? I can't remember. I don't know if it's Out the Mud or another team. It might be. But pretty much, that's going to happen this Tuesday. Let's move on. The Women's North American Championship. Wendy Chu versus Kiani Jordan. Now, let me give it to you like this. The last match Kiani had looked terrible when it came to her and Rosemary. I'm sorry. I am telling you right now, I did not like that match. Rosemary was fine. Kiani could not work with Rosemary very well. They did not have very good chemistry. And it looked like Kiani was being very sloppy. It was not Rosemary's problem. That was not her fault. Kiani just looked sloppy. But once you see her go up against Wendy, it looked way more cleaner. And Wendy, who looked crazy, who looked like she should join the Wyatt Six, did a great job. I actually liked how she worked. She didn't get angry like anyone else would. She hit the mat and showed some frustration, but she did not yell or scream. Kiani got upset and could scream, but Wendy generally didn't. I barely heard her scream or anything. The match was actually generally very good. It was well done. But you could tell they were beginning to get tanked by near the end. They just having a problem breathing. You could tell that it was getting harder and harder for them to lift one another and to throw each other around and to chase one another. It was getting tiring. But I'll give it like this. By the end of that match, when you see that Kiani won, it was an okay win in my book. I'm not saying it was perfect, but it was good. But then you see Tatum Paxley come out, choke out a Wendy Chu, and now they're going to have a program, which is fine. That shows Wendy is still going to have something to do. Now they got something for Tatum. I have no problem with it. But the person that's going to be a big question will be Kiani. She needs more time and more development. And the question is going to be who's next. I don't know who's next. I'm hoping to be someone that could really help her to grow a bit. Because as it stands, she's been okay. But like I've always said, like with Soruka and anyone else who's a gymnast, a former gymnast, or a cheerleader, this is what you used to do. This is what you're doing now. You need to crank that back a little bit because sometimes, like what happened with Rosemary, when you fall back on trying to do this more than this, it can be sloppy. And when it comes to Kiani, she needs more time. She needs more development with someone that can ground her more. She can bring this up, and she definitely needs it. Now, next, the men's North American Championship. Umafemi versus the Don. The King versus the Don. And this was a big question mark. Would they literally be willing to let Umafemi drop that title? Is he ready to move on to maybe the World Championship? And that was a big question for me, honestly. Because if you look at Umafemi, he's been given a lot of leeway as North American Champion. The Don has been developed quite well in over a year and a half right now. He's grown quite a lot since he came back when his knee was messed up. So his development is not something that I need to worry about or anyone else. He's reached a point that I say in another 6 months or a year, well, within 6 months, I do believe, because we're nearing the Royal Rumble. I would not be surprised if he shows up in Royal Rumble, because he looks just well enough that he could actually go to the main, well, counting if they got anything for him. Because remember this, guys, a lot of times when they're ready, they may not have nothing for them on the main roster. And I don't want to see Tony D'Angelo or any of the others go to the main roster without having any type of direction, any type of goal, any type of gimmick. And if you say, well, they got one, they don't always let them keep their gimmicks. A lot of times they'll let them restart, or they'll just freeze their gimmicks until they have an opponent for that person. That's what happens. A lot of times when they should develop when they're on the main roster, they don't develop due to the fact that they just don't have anything for them. So even if they're allowed to keep their gimmicks, it's frozen. So then they don't have a gimmick. They can't progress. They can't make themselves better faces or better heels or an in-betweener. They just can't. But I will say the match was very hard-hitting. It was good. Yes, we did see Crucifino with a crowbar, but he didn't use it, but he did have a crowbar in his clothes. And Umafemi did grab it, and he did whoop some ass before the match happened. So it was all right. I think the Don did well, but do I believe that Umafemi did well? I'll give you it like this. Do I believe he's ready for the main roster? No. Do I believe they're going to keep him on North American Championship title position? Yes. He needs more time. I just don't think he's ready yet. Does he look good? Yeah, but I just don't think he's ready. Moving on. Roxanne Perez versus a Jada Parker. This is something I gotta say. I've seen Busted Open Radio. The one that came out, I think, 2 weeks ago or 5 days. No, 5 days ago, I think. Where Booker T generally apologizes to Bully Ray for his comments. Now, Booker T admits he didn't hear all of the comment. And when it came to Bully Ray, his comment generally was, look, I look at Roxanne Perez. This girl is good. Is she ready for the main roster? Yes, but I don't want her to go up there because if they don't have anything for her, she will just flounder. And that's what he was saying, but Booker T didn't really listen to the entire statement, what he said, and then there was a little bit of beef, but they kind of squashed it on open busted, so it kind of got taken care of. Well, they really didn't have any anger towards each other. It was just straighten out the statement. And when it comes to Bully Ray, I agree. Look, I've stated this for quite a while. Roxanne is ready for the main roster. She is ready. When you look at this match, she led the match. She did. She had the attitude. She also led the match for Parker, even though Parker, you could tell, still needs some work, but she has potential. Jada Parker got potential. But when you look at who was a better polished wrestler, it is Roxanne. And I believe throughout most of that Roxanne was not going to lose. Flat out because of how superior she is. But here's the problem for me personally. And I will talk about Julia in a moment. But here's the thing I got to say. Got to finish my statement. I don't want to see Roxanne Perez on the main roster. Now that I know how the main roster's been working for the last 6 months, or say 4 months for that matter, they've been bringing people up, but they got people they're not really doing much with right now. The storylines they're producing are good, but there's not enough of them. There's not enough storylines. You got a whole bunch of people in the back that are sitting and catering that they can't use because they don't have enough storylines to cover them all. They may give them random matches once in a while, but other than that, they're doing nothing in the back. So put Roxanne Perez out there. I do not want to see her up there unless they got a plan to do something with her. Because say what you will, but when it comes down to Triple H, he's no different than Vince. I'm sorry. You say he's not like Vince. If he has nothing for these people, what does he do? Is he going to send them back to NXT? Some of them, yeah. But he can't send them all back there because he may need them. So they're going to be sitting in the back waiting to be used. So he will be no different than Vince. If he has no room for them, they're just going to sit and wait. So that's what I'm thinking. That's the reason I had to say this before the finishing of my well, do I believe Omofemi is doing well? He's doing okay. Moving on. Oh, wait a minute. Why did I say Omofemi when I mean Miss Parker? She did well. They did talk about her right ribs being taped up. So that's what they played on. It was all right. And we got Julia that came out after the match that happened. Now, I am not going to tell you I've seen Julia. Maybe I've seen something about her once, maybe twice. I'm not going to tell you that she doesn't seem to be a bit interesting. But here's the deal. When it comes to Julia, who I believe worked in Stardom the majority of the time, what would they do with her now? This is going to be a big question. Julia, question, can she speak English? And if she can't speak English, can she learn English? And then on top of that, what will they do with her? Look, the original NXT worked Asuka and Kairi Sane correctly. When you look at NXT now, I don't know how Julia's going to be booked. I don't have even a clue. Because she's signed to WWE. As far as we know, she's in WWE now. TKO WWE. But the problem here is, what are they going to do with her? She has to learn the style of the company. She also, if they're not going to be asking her, can you speak English? Can you work on your English? Are you willing to work on your English? They're going to have to get a translator for her. So it will look good and make some sense. My guess is she may know some English. Doesn't know if it's big or not, but this is what we got. Final match that needs to be talked about. Joe Hendry versus Ethan Page with a Trick Williams as the special guest referee. I'm going to tell you this, and this is the truth. When I was watching Zach and Wes's match, I thought one of two things. If Zach wins this, there's a good, strong possibility that Joe is not going to win. If Zach loses, it'll make it more unpredictable to know if Joe will win or not. But there was a good chance that he probably won't win because I don't see... Well, let's make this very clear. The matches were not the problem. The wrestling was not the problem. Seeing that let me give you like this. And Alicia, I believe her name is Alice. That spike hair, I don't know if I'm putting images in. I think I will. What the hell, woman? Damn. But seeing how Trick was calling it down the middle, how Ego is doing everything he can to make this, try to screw everything up or trying to get as much advantage as possible. Basically, shoving Joe into Trick, knocking him out of the ring. They get a new ref. Then that ref gets knocked out. Well, technically, before he gets knocked out, Trick stops the ref from trying to do 3 because Joe Hendry was on the mat and he was being counted 1, 2, and Trick stopped the other ref from doing it. And he's saying, no, this is my job. But then that ref gets nailed, and Trick didn't know what was going on. And then once the DDT was done onto the title, and the Eagle's Edge again, I believe was an Eagle's Edge, he had to count him 1, 2, 3. And then, yes, we got Pete Dunne beating the crap out of Trick, and that's the last thing we saw. But let me give it to you like this, my general thoughts about this, what I'm trying to explain. Guys, as I said earlier, TKO WWE, TNA, this is what we literally have between the two companies. We're not having something that's giving TNA something really substantial. One of my subscribers stated, hey, you know, the app is really doing well. TNA is getting 8 people a day. He said that in his own comment, 8 people a day. Shouldn't that be like 100 people a day? Dude, what did I say? You just said it yourself. 8 people a day for a multi-million-dollar company that is now working with a multi-billion-dollar company is only getting what? 8 subscribers to their damn app a day when it should be maybe 100 a day or 50 a day? 8? You said it yourself. 8! That's bullshit. You saying and everyone's saying they're selling out, but they're not getting anything big. Yes, Zach and Wes had a great match, and so did Joe Henry and Ethan Page. But guess what? That was on TKO NXT. We just had Emergence. I looked at that show. I reviewed that show, and dude, it's making me itch. It's making me itch how angry I was yesterday. That legitimately, well, day before yesterday. Yesterday. You see, I'm beginning to get things mixed up because I'm getting angry again. Their production was bullshit. Just like the old Impact Wrestling. Lighting may not have been a problem, but the camera work was bad. At one point, they lost one of the cameramen. And we saw asses. We saw backs. They didn't even know what to do. Even when the camera work, when they had all the cameramen, legitimately, it was crap camera work when the only thing they had to do, if they're having problems like this, zooming in and zooming in, doing it, do one thing. The cameraman, the only thing I had to do was this. The over-the-head shot was fine. The hard cam was fine until it started doing this. The only thing the men who were outside the ring on the sides had to do was this. You can see everything. Everyone at the arena was having fun. Everybody at the arena was enjoying the matches. Guess what? There's also people at home. And that's bullshit. That TNA Plus show was garbage. Taking away from the good wrestling there, it was garbage for the people who are watching it at home. And now, hearing one of the subscribers saying this is getting good for TNA, they're now getting people coming to the app 8 a day. They should get over 100 a day, 200 a day, 500 a day. You're working with a multi-billion-dollar company in TKO WWE, and you're here. You sent one of your most popular wrestlers and Joe Henry, who just closed the show. You just sent Zachary Wentz, who's now your TNA X Division champion, who won his match, and now is going to get a shot at the titles of another company. And they're going to get more ratings than you will. Why? Because it's connected to NXT only. Unless we start seeing stuff that's on NXT on TNA, like the TNA Tag Championships, the North American Tag Championship. Hell, if Joe Henry had won that title, I would expect him to bring it on to TNA. And that would bring a huge amount of activity to TNA. But we didn't see that. Zach won, but Joe Henry lost. Now what for TNA? They should have went live more than 4 months ago. 5 months ago, they should have went live. Haven't. Their booking hasn't changed. They may be selling out arenas, but have we heard that they're getting bigger? No. Hell, Scott D'Amore is doing more by himself, now having an arrangement with Qatar Pro Wrestling, Oceanic Pro Wrestling, and he just bought Maple Leaf Wrestling, and now he has Mauro Ranallo as his commentator. Mauro Ranallo has been sought after by WWE and AEW for years, and he just got him. If he had gone to TNA, that would have helped a lot. TNA would be way more interesting for people. Nope. This is what we got, guys. And understand, and I know people are going to say, you really hate TNA. No. I love TNA. I'm still reviewing it. I love the people there. Hell, there's one person, you know who you are, who hadn't watched wrestling in months, and he loves a Johnny Swinger. There's a guy who knows Johnny Swinger, has been gone for the company for months and months, is still begging for Johnny Swinger to come back. And I keep telling him, dude, stop. Stop it. If you're watching this, if you really want to listen and watch it, stop it. Watch the old videos of Johnny Swinger. If he joins TNA now, they're going to treat him like shit. They're not going to treat him the same way. And you know this, and you keep leaving comments that you want, oh, if Johnny was here. No, I don't even want to think about it. Because I know how TNA is. What have they done better without him there? Nothing. They've had great matches, but not 100% great storylines. We still had, understand an emergence. We had PCO opening in the kickoff show with Muhammad Ali Shira. When they were making such a big fuss about that entire storyline, it opens the damn show on the kickoff. Not opens the show. Honestly, it should have been left on TNA Impact. This was a great show. No Mercy. And seeing Joe Henry and Zack get their moment was great. But I still say, what is TNA gaining? Pose it to me. Tell me what you think. But it's just me. Peace.